Welcome to Grayson's Creek Chronicles, a warm little hideaway tucked between rustling trees, watercolor woods, and the hum of a gentle creek. Around here, we celebrate slow moments, fall colors, soft yarn, and stories that feel like home. Pull up a chair on the porch. You're right on time. The Hermit of Hollow Bend, Part 2. Visitor at Dusk. 3 days had passed since the storm rode through Hollow Bend, one of those restless mountain tempests that rattles shutters and leaves the air scrubbed clean. Now the valley rested beneath a soft hush, the kind that settles like a blanket over the world. In the quiet after the storm, even small sounds feel louder. A drip from the eaves, a shutter tapping once, twice, then remembering to behave. Griffin moved through the cabin with his usual morning rhythm. He fed the fire, rinsed last night's cup, and watched a bead of water slide toward the edge, not hurrying it. He stepped outside, boots sinking into damp earth. The forest smelled of pine resin and wet moss. The creek murmured nearby, steady and familiar. Griffin spent the morning splitting wood, with slow, deliberate swings. Thump, pause, crack. Thump, pause, crack. The forest felt watchful today, as if sensing something shifting beneath the surface. A crow called once, a single measured note. Griffin paused, listening. Later, he walked to the creek with his water pail. Ferns bowed under droplets. Spiderwebs glittered with tiny beads of light. He knelt to fill the pail, and then he saw it. A footprint. Human. Fresh. The heel pressed deeper than the toe, edges still sharp. Someone had stood here recently, without hiding their presence. Griffin followed faint signs, a bent blade of grass, a smudge of clay, a twig snapped with sap still wet. But after a short distance, the trail vanished as if the person had stepped off the world. He rested a hand on a fallen cedar. Some days you go looking. Other days, you let what's coming come to you. Evening settled in amber and rose. Griffin lit his porch lantern and eased into the rocking chair. The valley shifted to its nighttime voice. Insects testing the air, something large moving far off, then stilling. Then a twig snapped. "You can come closer if you like," Griffin said. A young woman stepped into the lantern glow, one boot caked in creek mud and the other in dry dust, a traveler between storms. "I didn't mean to intrude. I wasn't sure anyone lived out here," she said. "You've been watching my cabin since the creek," Griffin told her. She nodded, small and honest. She waited until there was light between them. "Sit a moment. Porch first. Then we'll see about getting you something warm," Griffin told her. She studied his face for a moment before nodding and saying, "My name is Lark." Griffin nodded back. "Griffin. Nice to meet you, ma'am." Lark hesitated only a breath before lowering herself onto the far end of the porch step, keeping a respectful distance. The lantern between them cast a soft circle of gold, just enough light to make the shadows feel like they were listening in. For a while, neither spoke. The sun slipped lower, brushing the treetops with its last copper edge. Griffin rocked once, slow and steady, the chair creaking in a way that sounded almost companionable. Lark rested her hands around her knees, boots planted firm as if she wasn't sure the earth would hold her otherwise. A breeze moved through the pines, not cold, just thoughtful. It carried the scent of wet bark and something faintly sweet, maybe the last of the wild honeysuckle. Lark breathed it in like someone who'd been holding her breath for miles. "Long road behind you?" Griffin asked quietly. She nodded, eyes on the horizon. "Longer than I meant it to be." The sun finally dipped, leaving a violet hush in its place. Fireflies blinked at the edge of the clearing, testing the dark. Griffin leaned forward, elbows on his knees, lantern glow warming the lines of his face. "No need to rush the tellin'. Let the day finish first," he said. So they sat, two silhouettes sharing the last light, until the sky gave up its final ember and the first true night settled in. Only then did Griffin rise, slow and sure, and gesture toward the open cabin door. "Come on, tea's better when the stars are out." And together they stepped inside. Inside, Griffin poured spruce tea, the steam curling gently between them. The cabin seemed to lean in, too, offering its quiet comforts. Stacked wood by the hearth, a crocheted rug soft with age, jars lined up on the shelf with labels long faded. Lark wrapped her hands around the warm cup, hesitating before she took a deep breath and spoke. I'm looking for someone." Griffin didn't rush her. He simply nodded, inviting her to continue. She took a slow breath. "My brother, Colin, he knows these hills better than anyone. But his last letter was strange. He wrote, 'If I don't come back by the new moon, look for the bend where the creek sounds like it's speaking.'" She gave a small, uneasy laugh. People in town said that meant Hollow Bend. And the man at the general store, he went pale when I mentioned it. Said some bends aren't meant for people. Griffin listened without interrupting, steady as a stone in a riverbed. The lantern between them flickered lower, throwing soft gold across the table. When she finally fell quiet, he set his cup down. "You can stay here tonight. We'll start searching in the morning." Lark looked up, surprised. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Why would you help me?" Griffin's answer came gently, as if it were the simplest truth in the world. "Because Hollow Bend brings people together when they need it the most." Lark slept inside, wrapped in a cedar-scented quilt that had clearly been mended more than once. Griffin had set it out without ceremony, the way someone does when kindness is simply part of the rhythm of their days. She'd fallen asleep almost instantly, exhaustion softening her features. Griffin quietly stepped onto the porch, easing the door closed so the latch wouldn't click. The night air met him like an old friend, cool, resin sweet, threaded with the faint metallic scent of the creek. He settled into the rocking chair, its familiar creak answering him as he leaned back. For a long moment he just breathed. Then he rose and made a slow circuit around the cabin. Not guarding, not hunting, just taking the measure of things, the way he always did when something in the world felt slightly out of place. The mud held only the prints he expected: deer, raccoon, his own boots. The shadows lay where they should. The trees stood in their usual quiet congregation, and yet the air felt different, as if the whole forest were holding its breath, waiting for something to step forward. He paused at the edge of the clearing, eyes drifting toward the dark line of pines. Years ago, after a storm, he'd heard the creek mimic a voice, water and wind shaping themselves into something that sounded like a name. He'd never told a soul. Words made it sound foolish, and foolishness out here could get you killed if it made you careless. He returned to the porch and lowered himself into the rocking chair again. The night pressed close, not threatening, just attentive. He closed his eyes, listening. Owl, leaves, creek. The familiar chorus of Hollow Bend. Then a shift, a thread of sound carried on the wind. Faint, distant, almost like a voice. Calling? Griffin's eyes opened. He didn't rise, didn't tense. He simply listened, the way the forest had taught him. A long, steady pause. Whatever tomorrow held for him, for Lark, for the brother who'd vanished into these hills, he would meet it with the same calm that carried him through every season. From deep within the trees, the echo came again. A whisper, a warning, a beginning. The forest held its secrets close that night, and the little cabin at Hollow Bend breathed in the quiet between echoes. Inside, Lark slept without knowing what waited in the trees. Outside, Griffin kept his steady watch, listening to the world the way someone listens to prayer. Whatever tomorrow brought, answers, danger, or something stranger still, it had already begun its slow approach through the pines. And that's where we'll leave them for now. Thank you for sitting with this story tonight, for walking the quiet paths of Hollow Bend with us. If you felt the pull of the creek's whisper, if you want to know what Griffin and Lark find when morning comes, I'd love for you to return for the next chapter. Until then, rest well and let the echoes fade gently.